Hi, very good day to you. Today's session is about the different types of informal and formal communication for different purposes. In organization, you communicate with people in many ways, using many different mediums, using many different ways, technology, and so on. Some of them are informal, some of them are formal. What do you mean by informal and formal? Uh, Informal means you communicate with people casually. It's a casual method of communication. When you see someone on the way, when you walk inside the canteen of your office, if you speak to him, if you communicate some message, that is casual, that is unofficial. You are sharing an information, that's fine, but it is casually shared, it is unofficially, it doesn't have any official weight in most of the cases. Okay, and that happens naturally. Staff in companies, what they do when they go for their tea break in the canteen, they speak to each other where they talk about some company matters. So that is your unofficial, informal, casual communication. So chatting, texting, social media messages are also considered informal. When you chat with someone, when you use the WhatsApp to chat something, texting, okay, write something on the social media, these are all informal. These are all not having the official format of it. So this is what we call informal. And informal communications are very important for your business as well. When you want to communicate with your customers, you officially communicate with them in a way, there's an official method, and you unofficially, casually communicate with them as well. When you see a customer inside your store, inside your office, you may speak to them casually. That's fine. You may have a coffee with them. You can talk to them. That is casual. Meantime, you can speak to them using proper emails, proper messaging system, proper communication system, proper written assignments or written work, written message passing. That also happens. That is when we call formal. So unofficial, casual, informal is one type that happens in organization. Meantime, we use official as well. Okay, so let's see the key features of informal communication. The informal communication is about something that happens suddenly, that is not planned, that is unstructured. You use casual language. When we write answers, when we write documents officially, we have words. When we speak things, we have different words. Let's say, what language do you speak? Any language you speak, when you write it, you have a way of writing, it is official. When you speak to someone, when you speak to your friend, when you speak to your colleague, you have a different language. That is when the language falls under informal. So casual language, okay, uh, unofficial language, and that is fast, flexible as well. Because if you want to speak to someone, if you want to speak to them informally, you just speak. You don't need to have proper time to draft your letter. But if you want to speak to someone, sending a letter, to communicate something, sending a letter, it takes time. You have to sit down. You have to write properly. You have to proofread. You have to read 2, 3 times again and again to correct all the mistakes, and you make it. Okay, so these kind of things are we called formal. So informal is fast. It is flexible, meaning you can use any type of language. You can use it as you want. So that is flexible. And this language is undocumented as well. Unofficial, informal communication may not have any legal weight. Okay, if somebody asks something, you casually say yes, no. That yes, no may not have any weight. You should do the work later. And this is undocumented as well. There is no documented proof for this. Okay. This informal communication happens between people. Those are very closer to each other. Friends, they speak to each other. Colleagues, they speak to each other. Sometimes you speak to customers as well. But when you speak to customers, you may, if you have some good relationship with the customers, you may use it. So that is the relationship. Okay, so that is what that is when it happens. Examples, as I told you, texting a colleague, hey, ready for the meeting? This is casual. Okay. uh, did you hear about the new project? You just have a chat. When you meet him on the doorstep, on the staircase of your office, you ask someone, do you know this new project? It is unofficial. Sharing jokes in teams and groups, it is unofficial, it is casual, it is informal. Okay. And the casual talks that takes place during your coffee break, that is again casual. Okay. All right. Now, what are the pros and cons? What are the plus and the minus of informal communication? There are so many pros and so many cons. Let's see what the pros are. It built the positive side of informal communication is it built friendly atmosphere. So you use informal language with friends. It builds friendship. The way you speak to your family members, the way you speak to your friends, the way you speak to your teacher, the way you speak to your boss in your office, it has different language. Okay, so you speak your casual language, unofficial language, informal language with your friends because you are closer to them. The more you speak, the more closer you go with. So that is the casual language, that is informal one. So that builds friendship. Okay, and that speeds up the communication. If I want to speak something to my staff, my people, my office employees, if I want to communicate everything formally, officially, that takes time. It will delay the process. But if I can speak to them informally, that speeds up the communication. That encourages the collaboration as well. It encourages the joint ventures. You work with them together in teams. And the cons, the bad side, the negative side of it, it can lead to misunderstanding. Certain words that you use, it may lead to some misunderstanding. Okay, it may spread rumors. Rumors means in companies there may be messages. Those messages are not really the truth. It is not real, but messages are spreaded by people. Okay, so wrong messages, faulty messages as well. So that happens. That is a risk because in your company, if you communicate things, if it is not true, it will make harm. Okay, and this method is not suitable for official discussion. If you want to discuss something officially, you have to use formal methods, not informal. Okay, right. Now the next part is about the formal way. Formal way is about structured communication. Example would be memos, emails, reports, letters. These are all formal methods. You will have evidence of this communication. If you send an email to someone 10 years ago, you can still find that email. So that is an evidence. But if it is an informal one, if you spoke to someone 10 years ago, you can't even remember what you told. So emails, reports, letters, they're all documents. You can keep them, you can file them, you can store them physically in your office, you can file them electronically in internet, in cloud. So they're all important things. And authorized channels for this is we use official channels that goes through managers to employees, employees to managers. Okay, and this is always clear. You use clear language, respectful language as well. When you use informal communication, your language may be not dignified, it may not be having proper respect there. Okay, but if you write the formal language, you usually write dear sir, madam, thank you. Okay, that way. So these are all respectful language that you use. It is professional. Okay, and all these communications are documented. As well, as I told you, letters are documented, you have an evidence. Emails are documented, you have an evidence. But WhatsApp messages, you don't have it, you can only take screenshots. Okay, and these formal communications are purposeful. Always you write a formal message, you communicate with people formally because you have a purpose. Okay, right. Now let's have some example of this. uh, how organizations communicate with customers. Formal communication methods, memos, okay, intranet, meetings, conferences, formal one-on-one meetings. Sometimes, okay, speaking to someone formally one-on-one. In an interview, it is official. Interview is a discussion. You speak to each other, and that is official. That is formal. Okay, handouts, letters, presentations you do. You can use notice boards. You can use blogs, organizational blogs. Your website, whatever you write in your website is official. It is formal. You don't write colloquial languages there. The brochures that you deliver, the newsletters, emails, telephone calls. Sometimes when you make a telephone call, it may be formal as well. It may be informal. It may be formal. The way you speak. Okay, when I speak to you, I may speak to you informally, but when I speak to you, I may speak to you formally as well. When I call you, I can call you, hello, sir. Can I speak to Mr. Zaki, please? And if you say yes, I can say I'm Dr. Hazir calling from B-TIC campus regarding your course. Okay, so that may be formal. Okay, but you can use the same phone call to chat informally also. Speeches, when you make a public speech, when you make a presentation before your customers, it may also be formal. Okay, so there are so many ways in communication to communicate formally and informally. So your organization has to select the right way. You cannot contact an office, okay, informally. You may have to use formal methods. And if you want to speak to your employees for a quick chat, you can't wait until you formally communicate with them. You may have to chat with them informally. So companies, organizations, they use formal and informal ways of communication to communicate with their employees. That's fine. But you need to know when to use informal and when not to use informal. And you need to know when to use formal and when not to use formal as well. That is when you can speed up your process. You can make your communication process efficient. I hope you understood the topic, and I see you later. Thank you very much.